The amazing story begins somewhere far in space, where a spaceship is heading towards Mars. The mission involved astronauts collecting samples from the surface of Mars. For this task, an astronaut named Patrick was chosen, who would land on Mars, collect soil samples from a designated area, and return to the spaceship. Patrick follows all the precautions, lands on the surface of Mars, and collects soil samples in many tubes. After completing the tasks, Patrick starts heading back to the spaceship. He directly moves from the lander to the main spaceship, which was orbiting Mars. Patrick was accompanied by 2 other astronauts, Dennis and Maria, who were also part of the mission. Maria was helping Patrick take off his suit, while Dennis was organizing the collected samples. Dennis had carefully placed the Martian soil into a large container, so that experiments could be conducted on it. Dennis and Maria congratulated Patrick, as he had become one of the few people who had set foot on the surface of Mars. Patrick thanked both of his teammates because the mission would not have been possible without them. The 3 of them were very happy and started their journey back to Earth, as their mission on Mars was complete. Now, their priority was to safely return to Earth. On the way, they had a conversation with NASA headquarters, who emphasized that they should handle the soil samples carefully and send all the reports. Patrick, Dennis, and Maria were so happy with their mission that they started relaxing and drinking champagne, having fun. But they had no idea that they had brought something else along with the samples. The camera focuses on the container holding the Martian soil samples. Suddenly, some slime-like material started emerging from it. This slime material appeared to be highly radioactive and moved forward on its own, indicating that it was alive and could be a sign of extraterrestrial life. The slime-like material moved toward them, as if it was coming from somewhere else. While Patrick, Dennis, and Maria were celebrating, the slime suddenly attacked them. They lost consciousness for a while, and all the signals stopped working. The slime was doing something to them, but it was unclear exactly what. After a few minutes, their eyes opened, but they didn't have any injuries. The 3 of them thought that the jolt caused by a malfunction in the spaceship must have made them faint. They didn't find any injuries on their bodies, so they became unconcerned. They continued their journey, and after many years, they finally reached Earth. The 3 of them were safely landed on Earth and kept in a quarantine center for a few days. They had to undergo a thorough examination, and only after being cleared by the doctors, could they leave. The doctors carefully checked their reports and stated that although they would be released from the quarantine, they should refrain from any physical relationships with others for some time. The 3 astronauts understood this well, but looking at Patrick, it didn't seem like he would follow these instructions. The 3 astronauts became very famous because their mission was successful. Patrick, in particular, started to see himself as a celebrity, and his attitude began to get quite arrogant. Meanwhile, we were introduced to a woman named Becky, a renowned scientist who had made significant contributions to every NASA mission. We also learned that using Becky's DNA, a new human being named Eve was created. Although Eve was made from human DNA, there were traces of alien forms within her as well. Experiments were continuously being conducted on her because humans had realized that there might be other beings in the universe who could be more advanced, and they could use their DNA to gain advancements. This investigation into alien life forms and their DNA was ongoing. Little did they know that the 3 astronauts who arrived on Earth had been affected by an unknown alien species, a result of Patrick accidentally collecting alien DNA while gathering soil samples on Mars. Unfortunately, the 3 astronauts had already been affected. We then see Patrick approaching some women, ignoring the doctor's advice. Within hours, one of the women became pregnant. Her belly grew rapidly, and within minutes, it ruptured. The alien DNA caused this entire process to accelerate. To everyone's shock, a child emerged from her abdomen, only it wasn't a normal baby. It appeared to be a 3-year-old child, fully developed. We also noticed large tentacles emerging from Patrick's back, confirming that he had been affected by the alien DNA. Changes in Patrick's behavior became apparent as the alien DNA began to manipulate him. He decided to hide the 2 children, who had the same alien DNA, in a safe place to ensure no one would question them, allowing their rapid development. Tragically, the 2 women who had been affected by Patrick's alien DNA lost their lives. Meanwhile, Patrick, now carrying alien DNA, roamed free. At the same time, Eve, a girl created from alien DNA, started to sense something unusual. Since she had alien DNA herself, she could tell that Patrick also carried the same alien DNA. This realization caused her heart rate to spike. The scientists researching Eve thought it was just a normal occurrence, as they believed it was common. However, Eve grew extremely excited about meeting Patrick, the person carrying the alien DNA. We then see Patrick going to his father and telling him, "I don't feel right. Ever since I returned from the space mission, something about me doesn't seem normal." Patrick felt like something was controlling him. He confessed everything to his father, explaining how he had been with a woman the previous night and then ended up at his house. He felt the need for medication, but his father dismissed his concerns. Instead, his father urged him to focus on his political career, even stating, "I want you to become president, so there's no need for you to rest." Patrick's father completely rejected his request for rest. Confused and unaware of the alien DNA affecting his body, Patrick tried to go back to living his normal life, though things were about to take a dark turn for him. Meanwhile, at NASA, a scientist named Oras was examining Patrick's blood sample. He noticed something strange in the DNA and was shocked. Suddenly, his hand brushed against a bottle containing several blood samples, and those samples quickly merged with Patrick's blood. Before Oras could react, an alien emerged from the blood, stared at him, and attacked, killing him instantly. Becky and the rest of the scientists realized that Oras had been killed by an alien life form from space, possibly related to the recent Mars mission. Becky immediately instructed her colleagues to capture Patrick, Dennis, and Maria, those who had been part of the Mars mission. She suspected they had unknowingly brought back an alien life form, which was now roaming free and could be extremely dangerous. After reviewing the CCTV footage, Becky discovered where the alien DNA had gone. However, she knew that hunting it down would be extremely risky, as alien civilizations could be far more dangerous than they anticipated. For this, she decided to call her trusted friend, Prime, who had experience handling alien-related cases. Prime had solved similar situations before, so Becky was confident that he would be the right person to help in this critical situation. Prime was quickly contacted and was on his way to assist them. Prime arrived to meet Becky and the rest of the scientists, helping them with their deep investigation. The team, led by Prime and Becky, went straight to Patrick's house since he was the lead member of the mission. However, Patrick wasn't home, he had gone somewhere else. This led Prime to suggest that they should also search for Dennis and Maria, the other members of the mission. The team quickly decided to head to Maria's house first. When they arrived, they saw Maria sharing an intimate moment with her husband. But suddenly, an alien tentacle emerged from her belly, and it attacked her husband violently. The alien entity, linked to the Martian DNA, killed Maria and fled the scene. Within a short time, Becky, Prime, and their team arrived at Maria's house, only to find her dead body. They were devastated that they couldn't save her, but they quickly shifted focus to finding Dennis. Dennis was at home with his wife, and the team interrupted them. Dennis was brought to the laboratory for testing to see if he had been affected by the alien DNA. After a while, the results came in, revealing that Dennis's DNA was completely normal. He had not been affected. This raised questions, and the team realized they needed more time to understand how this happened. Meanwhile, Patrick was shown meeting his girlfriend after a long time. She was eager to get close to him, and though Patrick was reluctant, he didn't want to disappoint her. As they got intimate, Patrick felt detached from his own consciousness. Hours later, when he regained his senses, he found himself face to face with a 5-year-old child standing over Maria's lifeless body. This child was unlike any normal child, and the scene raised alarming new questions about the alien DNA's effects. Patrick's mind began to deteriorate as he realized that the same horrifying event had happened again. He had been with a woman, and an alien child was born after he killed her. Overcome by doubt and fear about what was happening to him, Patrick pulled out a gun and shot himself, fully expecting to die. However, because his body was still carrying the alien DNA, he felt no pain and did not die. Instead, his body began to regenerate, and he returned to his original form. Dennis, who was standing at a distance, witnessed the entire event. He immediately realized that Patrick had become an alien, as no normal human could survive such an event. Shocked and scared, Dennis silently left the scene and went directly to Prime and Becky to inform them about Patrick. Prime and Becky were stunned by this revelation, as they had suspected something was wrong with Patrick from the beginning. The team quickly traveled to the address Dennis had provided, which was Patrick's girlfriend's home. However, when they arrived, they found only her dead body. There was no sign of Patrick. They continued their search, and it became clear that Patrick was fathering alien hybrid children with various women. He kept these hybrid children hidden, ensuring no one would harm them. The alien civilization was pushing Patrick to create more of its kind. This was its ultimate goal. As the search intensified, Prime and Becky were growing increasingly frustrated because they couldn't find Patrick. At that point, Becky decided to go to Eve. She felt that Eve, with her unique connection to alien DNA, might be able to help locate Patrick. Because if Patrick was an alien, Eve also carried alien DNA, and using her senses, she could track his location. To enhance Eve's ability to sense, Becky used various devices to extend her range, allowing Eve to pinpoint Patrick's location. Soon, Eve started learning more about her alien counterparts, and within moments, she discovered Patrick's whereabouts. However, Patrick's alien instincts also detected Eve's presence, realizing that another like him was nearby. Thanks to Eve's tracking ability, Dennis and Prime were able to reach the exact location and caught Patrick red-handed. Patrick was taken to a secure laboratory, where experiments were planned to understand the full scope of his alien DNA. But when Patrick saw that Eve was locked inside a chamber, he began to panic. He demanded that the chamber be opened so he could be with Eve. It was clear that as aliens, they were instinctively drawn to each other. However, Becky refused to open the chamber, citing rules and regulations. This angered Patrick, and in a fit of rage, he used his alien tentacles to attack Becky, almost killing her. But Dennis and Prime, equipped with gas-powered weapons, managed to subdue Patrick temporarily, forcing him to flee the laboratory. Eve, for reasons unknown, still yearned to be with Patrick. Meanwhile, military forces were closing in, determined to capture and kill Patrick, as he posed an enormous threat. After a short while, Patrick was shown meeting more women and continuing to father alien children, hiding them in secret locations. His alien offspring were multiplying at a rapid rate. Back at the research lab, Becky, who had been conducting ongoing experiments, finally discovered why Dennis had not been affected by the alien DNA. It turned out that Dennis had a rare condition that made him immune to the alien influence. As it turned out, the disease in Dennis' DNA was capable of completely eradicating the alien DNA, which was the key to ending the alien species threat. Becky quickly explained this to Dennis and began the process of using his blood to create an antidote. She believed that if Patrick continued fathering alien children, they would grow up and eventually breed more aliens, perpetuating the cycle. To prevent this from happening, they needed to stop the alien invasion using the antidote. However, Eve, sensing Patrick's presence, broke out of her chamber and made her way directly to him. Despite efforts to stop her, nothing seemed to affect Eve, as she was immune to the weapons they used. Eve eventually reached Patrick. Meanwhile, Dennis, Becky, and Prime, armed with an antidote-based weapon, tracked Eve and Patrick to a large chamber containing alien cocoons in their developmental stage. Becky insisted they act quickly, as once these alien offspring matured, they would become even more powerful. With the antidote gun, they began eliminating the alien children, ensuring none survived. Back with Patrick and Eve, who were both transformed into their true alien forms, they attempted to mate, driven by the natural attraction of their opposing alien DNA. Initially, they appeared in human form, but soon their true alien selves emerged as they indulged in their new forms of intimacy. After the cocoons were destroyed, Dennis, Becky, and Prime arrived and began targeting Patrick, realizing the offspring of Patrick and Eve could be even more dangerous. Patrick, enraged by their interference, used his large alien tentacles to kill Eve in a violent outburst. The story comes to an intense conclusion with Patrick's alien DNA finally being eradicated. As Dennis is severely injured by Patrick, Prime finds a tool embedded in Dennis' body, stained with his blood, which was used to create the antidote. In a desperate move, Prime uses this tool to inject Dennis' blood into Patrick, which starts to break down Patrick's alien DNA. Within moments, Patrick's alien form disintegrates, and he collapses, dead. The military forces, having arrived in time, rescue the survivors, and Eve's body is transferred to the laboratory for further research. However, the story doesn't end there, as a chilling twist reveals that some of the alien children Patrick had created are still alive on Earth, with their alien DNA intact. Prime and his team remain unaware of this, leaving room for future threats.